Welcome to the Girl Dad Show.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Girl Dad Show. I'm super excited to have Jessica on the show with me. Jessica, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to hang out.
Oh, no, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited about the conversation.
Yes. Jessica, let's jump right in. Why don't you tell the listeners what you do for a living?
I am president of Squeeze Massage, which is a national massage franchise that delivers a way better massage experience. And we get to that via personalization, preferences in shop, some premium enhancements, as well as a really high tech enabled booking and payment kind of experience for all of our guests. So we have 12 locations across the country. We're growing rapidly and we're actively looking for new franchise owners. So if you're listening to this show and you're a parent, but you kind of want to be an entrepreneurial parent, definitely connect with me.
Oh, I'm so excited about this. It's going to be awesome to learn more about. How did you get into this?
I've been in franchising since 2008. So really most of my career has been in franchising. I started in the restaurant world and then kind of moved into the fitness space, the wellness space about 10 years ago. So it's been quite the journey. And I really love working in my passions, working in what I love to do. And that's something that I try to instill not just in the people that I work with and the entrepreneurs that I coach, but also to my son. So I'm a boy mom and
Nice.
He's 16. And I do try to kind of impress upon him, you know, you could either work and it's boring and it's dull and you hate it, or you can really work in something you love. So I'm grateful to be able to work in something that I love. And I'm trying to pass that on to him.
So was that part of the journey, or were you always in love with the work that you did? Or is that something new that you did when you moved into wellness?
I've always been an athlete. And so really the acceleration started when I moved into the wellness space. And it really just unlocked that level of I'm passionate about this personally. Work doesn't feel like work. And I could put more into my work without it feeling overwhelming or without me hitting a place of burnout.
Yeah.
So I really encourage people who are at a career crossroads to almost just sit with your list of passions, personal passions, and try to put your career in that list somewhere. You know, try to build a career that overlaps with things that you love to do. And I'm just actively a health and wellness kind of person. It's in my day to day. I really enjoy that biohacking kind of world.
Yeah.
And that's the world I get to sit in right now with my work. So again, I'm grateful to be able to do that. And I love being able to help other people get to that space, whether that's via coming in as a franchisee or whether that's just via like coaching and just advising people. But it's such a life unlock to work in what you love.
Yeah, I love that. And I think the saying is, I can't remember who said it, but there is a saying that says, you know, love what you do and never work a day in your life, right?
It is so true.
Mhm.
It is so true. And that's what we could all wish for our kids to find also, you know, that work is not a drag. It really is something that can help you find your confidence. It can help you find your voice. It can help you find your highest and best potential only when you really are in it to that depth that you love it. So
right. Yeah.
it's something that I'm so passionate about, and I love being able to talk about it and to be able to pass it on to other people.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a really great lesson to teach your kids. And I definitely think that it's absolutely accurate. I love the idea that like you try to mirror what you love into the work because you spend so much time at work. And so why not, right? Why not try to mix that happen? So that's great. Talk to me a little bit about how you started this business. Were you always an entrepreneur, or is this your entrepreneurial journey? Like, what does this look like?
I've been an entrepreneur for the past 6 years. And
Nice.
so this opportunity really came about from running a marketing agency that I started with a few partners. And one of the clients that I was consulting with, you know, I ended up kind of working with them from a marketing capacity. And I saw this acquisition, you know, on their list of things to do. And it was a brand that I knew and a brand that I really enjoyed. And I reached out to the founder of the conglomerate and said, if you end up doing this acquisition, I want to interview to run this thing for you. And he said, no need to interview. Let's just do it. Let's build it. So we bought the brand in November of 2025. And so we're now about 9 months into growing the business and resetting it and repositioning it for franchise growth. So I have been involved in high growth franchises, franchises from 0 to 30, and now I'm in somewhat of a turnaround franchise. And so I love being able to flex different skill sets in
Mm.
different opportunities. And I've really never done a turnaround, kind of relaunch, buying someone else's brand and taking it to the next level. I've really kind of, done my own projects. And so to be able to breathe new life into something that already exists, and there were so many good pieces on the table, I'm just bringing additional pieces to the table and really
Awesome.
putting it together as a new puzzle. So it's been fun.
So the brand wasn't a franchise, it was just an acquisition target. And then you knew the brand though.
The brand was a franchise, and
Oh, it
we bought
was.
it as a franchise. Yeah. So
Nice.
we transitioned all of the current franchise owners over to our franchisor ownership group. And that's a whole different dynamic in acquisitions, because you're not just moving a business and you're not just moving accounts, but you're really moving people, and you're moving
Mm-hmm.
relationships, and
Mm-hmm.
people who bought into something, put their life savings into something with the predecessors. You really need to understand what that dynamic is and establish trust really quickly, that I see your investment so far, I honor that investment so far, and I'm going to take really good care of it for you, and just kind of get into that business partnership with those existing franchisees really fast. So now, as we're onboarding new franchisees, it's a different relationship where they're buying in with me on day one.
Yeah.
My original owners, they bought into someone different, and I kind of
Yeah.
needed to like convince them that I was worth also like almost
Their trust. Yeah.
reinvesting in.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a complete trust exercise layered on top of, as you know, like acquisitions are very difficult to
Yeah.
execute. So you're kind of executing all of the business pieces, and then also having very emotional, EQ kind of conversations with the people side.
Yeah. That's awesome. Sounds really, really interesting, really, really challenging, but also really, really fun. And
Yeah.
so you're now relaunching the franchise as this kind of new acquisition and brand, and you want to start growing it.
Yeah, so we're the new owners of it, and so it's really a new story to tell. A lot of times when you buy into a franchise, you're buying into the brand, but then you're also buying into the people who are behind the brand, and do I trust that those people can scale this to,
Mm-hmm.
a size that's going to help me as an individual franchisee build something alongside of it, and possibly exit it, at some point, on their own journey. So, to be able to kind of now tell a different story layered with the brand, I think is an amazing opportunity for us. And,
Yeah.
the story that I tell, I was a part of the Club Pilates system from 200 locations to 615 locations.
Oh,
So I've
wow.
grown a brand like plus 400, and we don't even, even need to do plus 400. If we do plus 300, plus 200, we're doing great as a franchise. So I hope with some of the, the brand references that we're able to make, and some of the past performance that we're able to reference back to, I'm hoping that it will be an exciting brand for people to connect with and be a part of as
Yeah.
we're relaunching and we're scaling.
I love this story. This is awesome. And then I have to ask, because it's technically called the Girl Dad Show. What does your son think you do for work? What does he think about all this?
He is a franchise expert from a
Is he
very young
really at
age.
16 already, huh?
Absolutely. He would not buy a squeeze massage franchise. He would buy an I Fratelli pizza franchise.
Oh, nice.
He has gone to a lot of the franchising shows with me. He goes to some of the fitness shows. He's been to 3 of the squeeze massage locations. So he is in it, and really has always been in my work from a very young age. I would take him into work. He would be the, stereotypical like kid sitting under the desk, playing on his iPad. We did that for sure.
Mm.
Whether it was over the summer months and, camps weren't happening or what have you. But all of my coworkers growing, through the times, they all know my son. And,
Mm.
as much as possible, I try to mix him into my work world so that there's not the black and white lines of divide. I think we sometimes feel stressed because of, oh, I have to be in dad mode, or I have to be in work mode. And for me, it's just my mode. And is he there? Is he not? And, I think it's beautiful to be able to blend your worlds because it takes the pressure off being perfectly in your parent mode or perfectly in your work mode.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I'm a big believer in work-life integration. I stopped trying to be so perfect at work-life balance about a few years ago, and I think it just happens as I got older. To be honest with you, I don't think I really had a big epiphany other than I just like kind of stopped caring, and I did the same thing. I started bringing my kids to work as well too, and I just feel like there's so much they can learn from it and just get better perspective than trying to insulate them and keep things separate. Is there anything that he has benefited from that you think that he's talked to you about? Like, obviously he knows a lot about franchising because he grew up in it, but does he want to be a franchise owner? Does he want to be a franchisor?
He has his own video editing business at this
Oh,
point.
really?
And
Good for
yeah,
him.
and so he's a little bit of an entrepreneur on his side. And
Yeah.
when I had my marketing agency kind of in full swing, he would do some projects for my marketing agency, so he was like
Okay.
on the team, on the payroll. And I think if you asked him, the teenage kind of attitude, he would say, I didn't learn a thing.
Yeah.
But I think there will be a zoom out moment at some point where he's had to do projects, he's had to follow timelines, he's had to take feedback and edit the project when it wasn't exactly how the client wanted it. So I think there's a lot of those kind of lessons, but
Mm.
I want to come back to something that you said because I think it's so important. And you kind of said, like, I don't care anymore. And I think early in your parenting journey, you do feel like you not that you have to hide your parenting, but that it might negatively impact your work.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think, and maybe you can relate to this, like you get to a point where you don't care about the image anymore, and you more so care about showing up as your best self.
That's right.
And a lot of parents would probably agree that, like, you learn so much as a parent that I think being a parent ends up being part of your best self.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was trying to say. You just said it like 10 times better, but that's exactly right. I just feel like it's one of those things where it's like I don't necessarily know if I even want to do business with you if you have a problem with it. And so if it's at that point, then I'm kind of going, why do I even care? And so I just like bringing it all in and just live an integrated life and blend it all in. I'm not going to be perfect there. I'm not going to be perfect here, but I'm going to do my best with best intentions. And it's just too hard. It's too hard to make it so binary. And to be honest with you, it doesn't work. I don't think raising kids well is a clean job. I think it's messy. Things go wrong all the time, just like business. And if you don't allow for things to go wrong, and you try to contain it so perfectly, it's bound for failure. So the only logical solution is integration, in my opinion. So I love that
Yeah.
you agree, and I love that you said that. Yeah, thanks for double clicking on it. So what are you looking for as you think about success for your parenting journey? Because now he's 16, and so I'm assuming there's some aspirations for you. I kind of alluded to the fact of him joining the franchising industry, but what are your goals for him, and what are your goals for yourself as a mom in this next chapter?
It's a big question. And I think, for him, where he's getting to the end of high school and, hitting that independent age where will he go to college? Will he just start his own thing? The biggest wish that I have is just that he finds something that he's truly passionate about and he really leans into it. And, whether that's something entrepreneurial, I do think he has that in him, or if it's, kind of being in more of a 9 to 5 traditional kind of setup, I want him to feel like it's connected to something he really cares about. And I do think the younger generation, whether it's Gen Alpha or whether it's Gen Z, they do inherently want to feel connected to their work. They want to feel passionate about what they're doing. And so I do hope he pursues something that he's passionate about and that he really, really enjoys, because I think that just helps. It helps you stay in the game longer, and it helps you climb higher on the ladder if you're somebody who wants to climb. So that's my goal for him. The goal for me is just to be able to connect with other parents who are maybe in that 9 to 5 and feel stuck and feel like it's not sustainable, because I agree. I think a lot of the 9 to 5 structure is so outdated and is so difficult to shoehorn into a school drop off that is, you pick up your kids at 3:30. And so how do you do a 9 to 5 without tagging in help on either side of the day? And
Yeah, that's
it's
right.
just it's so difficult to pull off. And I think what entrepreneurship allows you to do is to create your day so that you're set up for success. And so whether it's pursuing entrepreneurship and something on your own, truly your own brand, and building something from scratch, like I'd love to talk with people about that, or whether it's via getting people into entrepreneurship via a baby step like franchising, where you're building your own business, but you're not on your own. You have that ability to really build the life that you want on the schedule that works for you as a parent. So, one example, I have a call at 1 p.m. today, and one of my coworkers who's going to be on the call is like, I need it to be done by 1:30 because I have to jump in the car and then take my daughter to a softball tournament, and I'm going to be doing calls from the car. I was like, amazing. It doesn't bother me if you're in the car or if you're even off for the afternoon, as long as the work is getting done. So stack your day how your day needs to be stacked so that you can show up as a parent and you can be at the softball tournaments, but you still want to be able to do great things work wise and advance work wise. And I think entrepreneurship just allows you to excel in both areas.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I love the idea of you calling it a baby step. That's actually really, really clever because I'm relatively new to franchising. I just kind of joined the industry a couple years ago. So I'm a baby stepping into franchising. And I'm also now a franchisee. So I did purchase a couple of different franchise brands. So I'm also now entering in the world as a Z.
I
So
love
it has been a
that.
really fun journey. Thank you. Yeah, it's been fun for me to learn because I, like you, also love helping people and helping them build businesses and helping them scale. And I'm mostly on the finance side, finance and operations side, but I do find that franchising is a very unique way to help people take that step ladder because the risk is so high for most, and there's so many unknowns and so much that you have to figure out, right? And I think that jump and that divide is so stark from 9 to 5 to entrepreneurship that it does make it easier to help more people earn equity through a business through franchising. And so I do like that idea of like saying, hey, both are great, but one's a kind of like a step ladder. It's like a little bit of
Hmm.
a step towards it, which is awesome. Yeah,
Well,
I'm learning a lot from it.
I won't press you on which brand you're a part
Yeah,
of, but generally, if you're involved in a smaller brand, you can
yeah,
still also bring your, let's say, finance superpowers to the table on the brand side,
yeah,
because I think when you're small, really all resources are on the table. My
yeah.
team will joke with me like, they had a baby. Great. What's your baby good at? Because we're going to bring them in. They have to contribute. Like everyone is on the team. And so when
So
you
funny.
join a big franchise, let's say like a Club Pilates as an example
Yeah,
that I was a part of, there's great things about being a part of a big franchise where it's all
yeah,
established and a lot of it's baked. But if you're really like an entrepreneurial person and you have superpowers of your own, come into a smaller franchise, and then you really can like flex your entrepreneurial side with your own shop, your own location, but then you also have the ability to like lean in and like share best practices and really like support the franchisor and like establishing, okay, what's going to be the best model, what's going to be the best option between A and B. You really can be a part of the bigger build when you're in a smaller system.
yeah. That's really interesting. Yeah, I never thought about the size of it. That is interesting because as you're starting to build it out, the Zor is obviously trying to lean in and pull as many resources as they can because it's kind of at the growth stage where cash isn't as fluid yet. So that is interesting.
Well,
The
and
impact and influence
everyone
goes up.
absolutely, and everyone kind of says these buzzwords of like, collaboration, but how does that actually come to life? And
Yeah,
whether it's you're in a corporate role and you do actually have an opportunity to collaborate with people both like above you and below you and across the organization, but you can also really be in a franchise system and find collaboration with the franchisor, with your own team, with other franchisees. And in an ideal system, your expertise is finance, my expertise is marketing. Okay, great. Like, what are you doing on the finance side that I'm missing? And you can kind of share, you could trade notes and everybody gets better. So I
Mm,
think to me, that's the ideal way to collaborate. Unfortunately, it gets thrown around a lot as a buzzword,
totally.
but I do think we try to bring it to life in actuality at Squeeze.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I never even thought about it that way. That's really clever, and I do like that idea a lot because you do have a lot more influence, even if it's just for the fact that there's not that many of you in the beginning of a emerging brand, right? So that is really cool. Very good. And then, if I may ask, what do your family and parents think about you doing this journey and building this thing out from scratch?
Being a entrepreneur is definitely a roller coaster. You
Right.
definitely, are running in mud. You have days when you're sprinting and it just feels like you're still going backwards, but I think that's the part of entrepreneurship that, you end up being drawn to. You're drawn to the challenge, you're drawn to I want the next level. I want the next learning. And my family knows I've never been one to shy away from a challenge. In fact, if
Mm.
things are too comfortable, it really starts to get uncomfortable for me. And
Oh
I
wow.
look for the next level of chaos. I look for
Yeah.
the next thing to really like shake it up and do something different. So when I was at Club Pilates and had, stable 600 locations to support, 300 more already sold, not open, that I knew, would be the next year or two of my life, I had an opportunity to go be a CEO of a brand and not just be the CMO, but really like take that next step. And I chose the chaos route. I chose the
Yeah.
challenge, and
Yeah.
now here we are a few years later choosing that challenge again and just leaning into what is difficult. And
Mm.
I think that's just one of the bloodlines of being an entrepreneur is you crave the challenge, you crave the chaos, and it's the difficult things that help us all improve. So whenever I have those difficult days, I really try to center around that fact that like this is my learning now.
Hmm.
Through school, and so this is how you continue learning, is just by doing like really difficult things.
That's amazing. I love that. And your family knows this about you now, I'm assuming. Everyone's like kind of bought into the fact that you're just going to take these opportunities head on.
Yeah, and to kind of connect it to parenting, I was just out in California really for personal vacation, but we have locations in California. So I swung by the locations just because you're there. And so, my son was definitely like kind of roasting me and saying like, well, of course we're going to do some work while we're here. And, I roll with it. But he knows that there's the connection between like we are here on a personal vacation because we work a lot and we care about our work a lot, and we do have that blended world where work is always there. And I think the best thing you can do as a parent is just show what hard work looks like. It's not a cakewalk. Don't expect it to be easy, but when you do it and when you lean in and when you really like execute the hard things, there's immense payoff, not just in terms of vacations and financial things, but immense payoff in how you grow and just evolving as a person. So, I think we're in that mode right now where I do work a ton and work is everywhere and always, but then there is that balance of where we work hard and we do big things, we're building those things and they are ours, like we're owners in them. And so how cool is it to be able to exemplify that for your kid, to really show this is hard work pays off, and I'm not just reading that to you in a Instagram quote, but I'm showing it to you daily.
Yeah, but it's also kind of interesting too because it sounds like you're continually doing it. Even when you have the opportunity to kind of coast, you're actually choosing the next big opportunity to push yourself. And is that something that you learned from your parents, or is that something that you just learned over your career? Or like, where did you learn that idea of like, hey, once you start getting to a place where you start getting comfortable, you should start pushing yourself to keep growing your plate?
I just love the game. I love getting better. I love,
Mm,
it's that like an endurance athlete kind of
hmm.
mindset of like, I'm running the same distance. Can I run it faster today than I ran it yesterday? And to me, entrepreneurship and business building is a game. And, it is it's a difficult game, but it's a fun game. And so to me, it's fun to be able to get to do what I do. And when you have that overlap and you're working in the things that you love and it's fun, why wouldn't you lean into it? And why wouldn't you know, take some of your personal vacation time and go do a work thing because it's right around the corner and you love your work?
Yeah.
And I think that's the work life balance for me is there is no balance. It just all is one, and like life is life. And I think I'm again just grateful to be able to work in a place that allows me to like flex my best skill sets
Yeah.
and do so in something that I'm passionate about.
Yeah, it's awesome. I still think you're unique. I don't think most people choose to go to the next big project, but I'll let it slide and say that yeah, it's just the right thing to do. But I definitely think it's unique, and I think for me, it's like I feel the exact same way because I feel like something that I'm trying to teach my kids is this like concept of like if you're not striving, you don't have to be striving all the time, but if you're not pushing yourself and striving, you can accidentally get into a bad place mentally because that can eventually lead to boredom and boredom could lead to depression, and then it becomes a negative cycle. And so it's not that you have to constantly like stress yourself out or like try to put yourself in hard situations. It's that you want to kind of constantly be stretching yourself. You want to be pushing, learn a new skill. It could be a new hobby or something, but this idea that you just elaborated about your decision making and opportunities in life is actually something that I'm actively trying to figure out how to like instill in my kids. Because I don't want them to get stuck. I don't want them to get stuck because
Yeah.
it could be 6 months, it could be 6 years, but you will eventually start to lose some happiness, if you don't challenge yourself with a new skill or new thing to learn.
For sure. And I think I just was lucky growing up that I was a little bit of an athletic kid and like found athletics very early in my life,
Mm,
because so much of what you're talking about is answered in athletics. Like if you
yeah.
don't put the work in, if you check out, your performance goes down versus like if you're actively engaged, if you're showing up consistently, even if it's not perfect effort, you're rewarded by the consistency. And after you lose, what do you do? And I think so much of that resilience and that you're almost fueled by the competition, like that all
Hmm.
comes from being in athletics. And there's definitely the statistics, especially for female leaders, is 92% of female leaders tie back to competitive athletics,
Oh,
whether it's
wow.
at the like high school level or collegiate level. So I
Yeah.
think especially for girls who maybe aren't, born into a society that encourages girls to like lean in and fight for it, athletics teaches your kids to fight for it. and
Hmm.
and I think especially as parents, maybe your kid is the same way as mine, like he'll learn from me, but it's also great for him to learn from others because there's
Hmm.
times he just does not want to hear it
Yeah.
from me.
Yeah.
And so to have a coach say it, to have a coach say like, hey, you got to show up, you got to be consistent, versus it come from, you as a dad, I think makes a
Yeah. Yeah.
difference.
Parent. Yeah. Totally.
Like who's
Yeah.
saying the things, like who's dishing out the homework, and having those kind of good influences coming from coaches, I think is amazing.
Yeah. No, I love the athletics thing. That's a really good point. That statistic is crazy. That's awesome to know, though. I have two girls, so I have double the trouble. Yeah. So I got to figure that out quick.
Yeah. Yeah, but if they're not athletic, maybe even like encouraging them to get into something like running. My son's not entirely athletic, but he runs track and he runs cross country. He would never
Yeah.
be like the football fighter, kind of like hit people sport, but he seems to really be connected to the performance and the like optimization and tracking results and Strava
Hmm.
and all of that. And so I think you pick up learnings from whatever you do. There's different kind of learnings that you get from the arts, but I think in terms of resilience and in terms of that need to show up consistently, sports is such a good teacher.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's awesome. Yeah, and I'm definitely doing that with my oldest. My youngest is not as interested in it, but I definitely see the parallels of sports and business. It's really really powerful. Let me switch gears a little bit and move you into my rapid fire questions, so I can get you back on your day here and taking over the country with Squeeze Massage and running a new brand. So, first one, if you have one piece of advice you would give to other parents, what would it be?
Put yourself first and
Mm.
exemplify what it means to pursue your potential.
I
I think a
love
lot of
that.
times as parents, we put our kids first and we almost helicopter parent and maybe, shut off some of our own passions just to help our kids pursue their passions. But I do think our kids benefit from us being whole, complete, inspired people ourselves. So don't like fall victim to the parent trap of like, I must be in mom mode or in dad mode all the time and my kids come first always. It's okay to put yourself
Yeah.
first.
Yeah.
And I think your kids will reap the benefits.
I could literally probably have a whole episode just on that. I It's a big epiphany that I had a few years ago, and it's one of the reasons why I started building business so hard and so much, is because what I realized is that I was sacrificing so much of who I was to be the best dad I could be. And what I realized is that they're listening like a certain percentage, but what they're really doing is watching much more. And you can't just tell them to be a good human or have high agency and work hard and strive for greatness. You have to show them, and you have to back it up with more than words. And when I realized that it was also upon me to go strive to be happy myself, so they knew what that looked like to fight for happiness. And so it's really gratifying to hear you say that, because it was a weird dad guilt moment to make that decision to go do that. But I love that there's another leader out there that has come to that same conclusion and is announcing it as their one piece of advice. That makes me feel so good. I can sleep good at night this weekend. Yeah.
Can I share like one of the
Please.
most embarrassing things that I've ever like experienced as a
Please.
parent?
I would love it.
My son at 4
Mm.
would say things to me like, "Mom, are you going to be mean mom today?" And I
Mm.
was like, "What do you mean?"
Yeah.
But what he was calling me out on is like I would be stressed in general with my life and I would show up to him as a stressed out individual.
Mm.
And that's not fair for
Mm-hmm.
him at 4 to try to toggle between, are you going to be like nice mom today or are you going to be mean mom? And gosh, it like really hit me hard to say like, okay, I need to do these things for me to make sure I am able to show up for him
Yeah.
stable, and like consistent and not the highs and the lows, but like he would know what he would get on a
Right.
regular basis.
Yeah.
And whatever it takes as a parent to get to that. But I think for me, it took prioritizing me in order to like show up for him.
Yeah. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. That's so real, and it's so important to note. And I love that you went on this journey a lot sooner. And it's also awesome that he taught you that at 4 years old. That's incredible.
Yeah.
And for whatever it's worth, Lily taught me this when she was 5, because she said something very funny. Yeah, it's kind of similar context. And it was just like the epiphany hit. Yeah, when she kind of like couldn't articulate what was happening, but I took it and I understood it. And so,
Yeah.
very, very cool story. Thank you. Okay, moving on to the next question. Was there one thing that was very surprising about yourself that you learned after becoming a parent?
I have patience actually.
That's awesome.
I never thought I did, but there's moments where I can listen to the long story about the day. I could go back and forth into the house 3 times because we forgot 3 things, and I definitely kind of run high speed a lot. And parenting taught me that I have a slower mode. I do have that ability to toggle that switch. And I never thought I did. So here I am, living in balance. The other funny thing that parenting taught me is like I think as a leader, delivering feedback is now I almost deliver feedback as a parent. Like
Mm,
I try to see the good always, where I used to really like feedback was correct what's wrong, adjust to the negative, feedback on the negative. And now I
yeah,
really try to like see the good, encourage the good, and hope that it will eventually, I don't even need to correct the bad because I'm being so obvious about like rewarding the good. And that's such a 3-year old, mom
yeah.
brain kind of thing. But I definitely deliver feedback differently now than I ever did before.
That's awesome. I love that. And I love the corollary to business. That's wonderful. I find there's a lot of similarities in parenting and leadership, a lot. And I know that it sounds terrible when my employees listen to this because they were like, are you treating me like your kid? And I'm not, I just think that, your kids, you're also trying to raise to be great humans. And so it's the same thing. It's not any different, and so I feel like it's a lot of respect, actually. I think it's actually the better way to do things.
And you're showing up as your best self. So
That's
going
right.
back to the idea of like parenting makes you better and it helps you show up as your best self. So it's like you as your best leader,
That's right.
delivers balanced feedback, or you as your best leader is a better listener than before being a parent. All of those things, it's not about your team, it's about you,
Yeah.
and how you show up as a leader.
Yeah, I love that. Next question. Do you have a favorite book that you like to read over and over again, or that you like to recommend to upcoming leaders?
The only book that I've read multiple times is Thinking Bodies, Dancing Minds by Jerry Lynch. It kind of connects athletics to business. It doesn't tie in the parenting, unfortunately, but maybe if I reread it through a parenting lens, there'll be some connection somewhere. But it really takes the lessons of athletics and brings them into real life. It brings them into a business setting and, kind of chapter by chapter, fear, failure, bouncing back from failure, acting as if, finding your confidence, finding your voice, like chapter by chapter, it really goes through, here's how you'll experience this in athletics. And then here's how you'll experience it, or here's how it will apply to business. So I think if you're an athlete who's listening to this, or if you have an athletic background, definitely look that book up. You'll love it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I appreciate it. It's one of my favorite questions because I add to my book list and I've never heard that book before. So I will definitely check it out. Okay, to bring us home, when you're not building the next big franchise brand and being an awesome mom, what does Jessica do for fun? What's your downtime activities?
I am signed up for High Rocks Dallas.
Oh, nice. Good for you.
And I'm actually doing it with my son. So he is 16, so he's the youngest possible age that you can be to do the adult High Rocks. And so we're going to be a mixed double team, which means I need to do the guy weight, because you do the higher weight when you're on mixed doubles. But that'll be a fun mother-son experience if we can get through without killing each other.
I love that. Yeah, you're going to have to post some videos and photos somewhere and share it. Yeah, that's so awesome. I've seen videos of these things. It's intense. It's unbelievable. Yeah.
Well, and that I work in this space, I work in this space where it's okay to prioritize your health, prioritize your wellness. So I always kind of take those opportunities to lean in and to keep myself living and feeling my best. So High Rocks is definitely kind of the next level for me. And he said he wanted to do it. He talks trash with me all the time at the gym. So
awesome.
Now we're on on a mixed doubles team, going to try to make it happen.
I love that for you. That's wonderful. Okay. Well, Jessica, thank you so much for taking some time to talk to me today. I can't tell you how grateful I am that you shared your perspective and experiences on the show. I learned a ton from you already, and I can't wait to stay in touch and be connected with you.
Absolutely. I can't wait to hear the episode and absolutely stay in touch. And if anybody wants to connect with me, I'm Jessica Yarmey on all social platforms.
Awesome. Thank you, Jessica.
Thanks for listening to The Girl That Show.